Hello and welcome to Nightly Scroll, everyone. I'm Hayley Caronia. Happy Friday. Thank you for spending your Friday evening with me. If you are watching on X or on Facebook right now, come on over to Rumble. Rumble.com/Hayley will bring you to the Bongino Report channel. That is the only place that you can watch Nightly Scroll in full. And you are not going to want to miss what I have for you tonight. First, Michelle Obama admits that she got into Princeton not because she was smart enough, but because she's black. Also, the New York City mayoral race is heating up, and voters in the Big Apple are likely to elect socialist Zohran Mamdani despite some of the crazy things he said in last night's debate. Also, the government shutdown is impacting air travel and shining a light on how badly we need to overhaul our air traffic control systems. Also, pop star Sabrina Carpenter, she loves men, but she also hates men. I will dive into what The Economist is saying about modern love and how it relates to pop culture music. We've got scrolling time. We've got blind reactions. I'm going to try to get to everything, so put your phones on Do Not Disturb. Nightly Scroll starts now. That you guys submitted. So I'm going to try to get to that as well. So rapid fire, Nightly Scroll starts now because we've got a lot to get to before then. So Michelle Obama, former First Lady of the United States, she admitted the quiet part out loud that she only got into Princeton because of affirmative action. She never had the grades. Here she is.
I wasn't good on SATs, so all the scores said, you don't belong at Princeton. And there were people who saw me, saw the color of my skin and said, you're aiming too high. And that was my first insecurity of thinking, well, maybe I don't belong here.
So how did you overcome that belief that you don't belong?
I got there and I looked around and went, oh my God, a lot of bright people, but there were a lot of people that were just, and sort of realized that affirmative action isn't just the.
Wow. She's like, I had to overcome this feeling like I didn't belong because my grades told me that I didn't belong. Well, guess what? I don't think you belonged.
I think that's the barometer.
I mean, what? Like, come on. This is just so crazy. And this reminded me of the college admissions scandal of 2019 or 2020, whenever that was, when actors Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman, they tried to get their kids, maybe they're not so smart kids, into colleges that they didn't belong in, right? Lori Loughlin, I don't know how to pronounce it. She photoshopped pictures of her daughter, Olivia, rowing to try to, paint her as some athletic asset to the school if she was let into USC. And then Felicity Huffman had her daughter's SAT scores changed. When white people try to get into colleges that they don't belong in, they have to commit fraud and then they go to jail. And I'm not defending any of that behavior, obviously, because I'm of the school of thought that if you aren't smart enough for the school or the job or the opportunity, you shouldn't be there. You should earn it based on your own merit. And when black people try to get into colleges that they don't belong in, they don't have to commit fraud. The red tape is cut for them, and these schools want to hit a quota. And when affirmative action started in the 60s, it was born out of this guilt. Like, well, we have to do something to make up for racism and slavery, and we have to help this group that has been subjected to that. And we need to make sure that regardless of skin color, people are treated equally and they get equal opportunities. But instead, it prioritized equity, which when applied in 2025 means that you think people of color can't do what white people can do, and they need help in order to do that, which is insane. So to hear Michelle Obama in 2025 talk about affirmative action, it actually made her more aware of her skin color and more aware of the differences between her and her classmates. That's a very telling realization because she shouldn't have been there based on her grades. She was put there because of her skin color. You have an affirmative action beneficiary literally admitting that these efforts based only on skin color are racist by definition. Because if racism is viewing a group of people as inferior, and you think that black people need help getting into college, that is racist. And I'm white, okay? That's obvious, right? I'm white. I did very well in school, but not well enough to get into Princeton. So I didn't apply to Princeton. But if, for whatever reason, I was afforded the opportunity to go to Princeton or an Ivy League college, I would also have those same feelings that Michelle Obama had of being a fish out of water, like I didn't belong, regardless of my skin color, because I would not have been on the same level academically as my classmates. And how does feeling and being inferior set someone else up for success. It doesn't. It makes you feel like the system that was set up to help you doesn't actually help you. And then we wonder why minority communities feel like the world is against them. It perpetuates the victim mentality that we hate so much. And all of these efforts to be anti-racist are racist. Affirmative action puts people where they don't belong, and it has actually exacerbated racial stereotypes because now people question if a person of color actually earned their spot in school or in the workplace. And these policies make you hyper aware of the differences in people's skin color instead of seeing people as equals, which is the exact opposite of what civil rights activists fought for. So when people say, oh, Republicans are anti-DEI, so therefore they are racist, no. We are trying to get rid of those racist policies. We are striving for equity and trying to dismantle these efforts that do more harm than good. But here is Don Lemon, by the way. This clip has gone viral from his podcast, insinuating, and this is all surrounding illegal immigration. And, he's arguing that Black and brown people are under attack in this country, and therefore illegal aliens should obtain guns. Listen to this.
Black people, brown people of all stripes, whether you're an Indian American or a Mexican American or whoever you are, go out in your place where you live and get a gun legally, get a license to carry legally. Because when you have people knocking on your door and taking you away without due process as a citizen, isn't that what the Second Amendment was written for? Go back and read what the Second Amendment says. And perhaps it will knock some sense in the heads of these people who are saying, well, it's all great. I don't believe they're doing it without due process. They're asking people for papers. They're not really beating people up. These people are doing things that are illegal. Nobody is illegal. It is a misdemeanor to cross the border. Now,
okay, so this is very funny because this clip to me, Don Lemon is sounding more and more like a Republican in that he's telling everyone, he's urging people to read the Constitution, to abide by the Second Amendment. I mean, what happened to gun control and liberals being afraid of guns and wanting to take guns, and guns are bad and guns are evil? It's just interesting how the script flips when he's talking about illegal aliens and their right to defend themselves. It's like law-abiding American citizens need not read the Constitution, but if you were an illegal alien, look at the Constitution, follow this. I mean, it's asinine.
What won't he say?
It's just crazy.
I mean, whatever. Always.
Also, you cannot be an illegal alien and legally obtain a gun in this country.
Not even close.
So, you would have to lie in order to do that, which is a felony. So let's get that out of the way. But if you're a minority in this country and you want a gun to protect yourself, great. Go get one legally to defend yourself against threats, including the government, if it gets to that point. But what's dangerous is that Don Lemon and other Democrats, as we can see with the No Kings protests, they already believe that Trump is a dictator and he has stuck the military on its own people. So when you use that hyperbolic language and then you go tell people to arm themselves in response and then mix that with all the violent rhetoric that's coming out of the left, that's a problem. Also... Wow, this is just the theme for tonight's show is Democrats saying the darndest things. So that's Don Lemon. We've got Michelle Obama, Don Lemon. Now here we go with NYC mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. This first clip wasn't from the debate last night specifically, but let's just play this. It's just one of his policies that makes absolutely no sense. Watch.
I think it's one of the key reasons why we have to make buses free is because it reduces the assaults on bus drivers. It creates a safer work environment.
You're going to have to help me make sense of this. How does making the bus ride free eliminate the threat to bus drivers? If you really break this down, I think it would increase the amount of assaults because more people would be able to ride the bus.
More nefarious people would just be loitering on the bus, it seems.
They wouldn't be deterred by the $2.90 fee to go commit the crime. They'd be able to commit the crime for free. But, as we know, people in New York City and in other cities, I'm sure, but I know specifically from living in New York City, it doesn't matter what the subway costs or the bus costs or whatever. People jump the turnstiles. They're not paying for this stuff anyway. So if you're a criminal, it doesn't matter. But here's another thing that was interesting. He said that in this debate last night that he was finally going to raise taxes on New Yorkers. Watch this.
And in working with unions and working class New Yorkers to finally raise taxes
finally. I'm sure a lot of New York voters are finally, they've been dying and waiting for taxes to get higher. What? Finally raise taxes? But again, this just plays into the fact that a lot of these people who are going to be voting, these progressives that are going to be voting for Zohran Mamdani, they just want to vote for him because they get to pat themselves on the back and feel really good about voting in the first Muslim mayor. They get to feel really good about voting in a brown person. They get to pat themselves on the back because socialist policies sound good on paper, but they never work. And a lot of these voters are progressive, white, liberal Karens who literally do not care that Zohran Mamdani says, I'm going to raise taxes for white people and affluent people. And they just say, okay, yes. That's who he's catering to. And that's really scary when you think about, he is up in the polls, like by double digits. And he is likely going to be the next mayor of New York City. And he is launching an attack basically on white people, an economic attack on white people.
Mid-80s% chance to win?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think what's happening to people finally going to move to Florida.
Well, finally, New Yorker, finally the taxes in New York are high. Finally, they've just been waiting. This will be the nail in the coffin for any business owners, any billionaires left in New York City who didn't leave already. This is going to be their moment where they say, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm packing up my bags, and I'm going down to Florida finally. But here's an also interesting clip from last night's debate where he basically was trying to demonize Andrew Cuomo for not stepping inside of a mosque. And listen, I don't like Andrew Cuomo, but, this is an interesting thing to try to get him on. Watch.
It took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality, and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
So seeing Muslim voters and being able to name a mosque doesn't correlate. Like that doesn't mean, and again, I hate that he's making me defend Andrew Cuomo in this moment because I am not a fan of his. But what does that have to do with anything? Being able to name a mosque would make him a better leader or a sufficient leader. And therefore, because Andrew Cuomo can't name a mosque, that makes him disqualified, and that makes Zohran Mamdani a better leader for New Yorkers. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Taking a quick break to tell you about Fatty 15. We're not getting any younger, are we? And you, like me, probably want to find something that will help you make you feel younger and slow down aging. And I'm excited to share with you guys C15 from Fatty 15. It is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Van Watson discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the U.S. Navy. And based on studies, we know that when our cells don't have enough C15, they can age faster. And Fatty 15 can help repair and protect age-related damage to cells and help activate pathways in the body that support our overall wellness. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, 100% pure C15 supplement that comes in a gorgeous reusable jar. I have so much more energy since taking it. I fall asleep faster. I feel like I'm looking pretty good, right? I feel like my cells are looking pretty young. So I don't go to bed without it, and it is really helping me get through long days as well. Fatty 15 is on a mission to help help optimize your C15 levels and help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off of their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/scroll and using code SCROLL at checkout. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right, so let's talk about policies that actually do matter, and that is making air travel safer. As we know, the Trump administration has moved to overhaul these decades-old air traffic control systems. They are running on floppy disks and Windows 95. Yes, that is over 30 years old at this point. That's horrifying considering that, millions of Americans are traveling every day. And we should feel safe. It's really with all these crashes at airports and, crash landings and whatever else, all the airport lunacy that I love to cover on this show. I mean, most Americans, you would think, want to be safer. And, President Trump has said in the past that LaGuardia, for example, is like a third world country. He was referencing New York airports and how they're falling into disrepair. And LaGuardia does not look like a third world country anymore. They've done fantastic things with LaGuardia, I will say. I used to hate flying in there, and now I love flying in there. It's like my first choice. Not that President Trump, that's President Trump's doing, but, he's always been passionate about updating our airports. And certainly from the beginning of this administration, safety has been a top priority, whether it's cracking down on crime, requiring drivers to speak and read English. So overhauling this old system is on the docket, and it's very popular among Americans for obvious reasons. And it should take about 4 years, but a new study shows that 71% favor this President Trump administration proposal to modernize this air traffic control system. 19% oppose it, and 10% don't know enough to render an opinion. Don't you think that's interesting? I don't know how you could oppose this. This should be 100%.
Hey, do you want the airports better? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your time to this matter.
Not only airports better, but to update the systems that air traffic control is reliant on to make sure that your plane lands safely. I mean, I used to be super afraid of air travel in general. I've talked about this on the show. When I was a little kid, I was so nervous. Even up until throughout high school and college, I was very nervous to fly. And only in like the recent, last 10 years, I've become more comfortable flying. And now I'm not as anxious. But a lot of people have anxiety about flying. And a lot of that anxiety stems from plane crashes that are, it's not common. But people still get very upset about this. So I don't know how this isn't 100%. But 81, and maybe it's because people are like, well, how are we paying for this? Is this going to be taxpayer funded, et cetera? This is why I would love if you could pick and choose where your tax dollars go, because this is something I would say, hell yeah. Do I want to send another $1 billion to Ukraine? No, but I'll pay for this.
Or be able to vote for things one at a time on the floor.
100%. 100% instead of these like massive bills. But speaking of massive bills, 81% of Americans backed the proposal when they learned that it was tied to the big, beautiful bill. So in the big, beautiful bill, in that legislation, there is $12.5 billion to modernize air traffic control and their system. So heck yeah. And the poll also found that 80% also of Americans, they want a federal contractor who can overhaul the air traffic control system. So it's not going to be the government that has failed previously. They want to bring in outside perspectives here, highly skilled Americans, so that there's, no conflict of interest with existing federal contracts. There's not going to be any baggage or anything like that. It's just going to be jobs, safety, safety, safety. So I am super excited about this. It's basically draining the air traffic control swamp, if you will, giving the business to a private company rather than to the government. So I love it. All right, let's talk about love, shall we? We talk about AI on this show a lot, and I've covered a lot of stories about, and I've covered stories about people falling in love with ChatGPT. We covered a story about a guy who literally left his wife and family for ChatGPT. They're getting a divorce. And we also covered a story about an elderly man who he actually passed away going into New York City because he was having a conversation with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, his, avatar or whoever, was a woman that convinced him to come into the city and to meet him. So he's thinking that this is a real woman, and he actually passed away on the way in to meet ChatGPT. It's not even a real person, not even a real place. It was a fake address. So we've covered this before. But now this new study shows that this is impacting younger generations in ways that I haven't touched on this show yet. So this new study says that 1 in 5 high schoolers has had a romantic AI relationship or knows someone who has. Whew. 25% of high schoolers?
So
That's
now
a
you're going
lot.
from being catfished to somebody that you think is somebody else, but at least that's a real person, to now falling in love with something that you know is definitely not
Which
a
has
real
to
person.
be, this has to be a side effect of COVID and the lockdowns and people not being able to communicate in real life, people having their heads in their phones, people going to Zoom school. You have, the COVID pandemic created a world where you can isolate yourself. You can feel connected to your phone and to your laptop or to your TV, and you don't have to go out into the real world and make friendships and make relationships. And maybe, but it is scary. It's scary to put yourself out there, but these new technological advancements have basically shown younger generations that, well, if you have anxiety about dating, don't. You can just date your computer. And they say, okay. Okay, so 1 in 5 high schoolers have fallen in love with AI, which is crazy. But here's the other thing. Can you pull up the headline one more time for me? Because not only does it say that 1 in 5 high schoolers have had a romantic relationship, or they know someone who has. So maybe it's not exactly 25%, maybe it's less than that, but how embarrassing is it that they don't feel any shame about being in a relationship with AI so that they would tell someone about it?
I mean, like, you imagine being at the lunch table in high school and being like, hey,
I got a
Joe
new
over there's
girlfriend.
dating his phone.
I got a new girlfriend. Oh, who is she? She doesn't go to
She's
this
on my
school.
new iPhone 17.
She goes to a different school. You wouldn't know her. And then he pulls out his
but they're
phone.
they're not even joking about that now.
I
Like
know.
that used to be the old cat. Oh, I'm dating a girl on Facebook. That
Yeah.
linebacker for Notre
Like,
Dame. They made a
right.
whole thing of that. Now
Right.
it's like they don't care. It's just, yeah.
Who was that man?
She's in my pocket.
Didn't he have the catfish girlfriend?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, we're just getting into a really scary place. Also scary, I read this headline. They've come up with a new sexual identity. They've got to have hundreds of these by now. And they've all got their own flag. But here is what it means to be nebula sexual. Yes, you heard that. It's not just bisexual now. It's not just gay. It's not just transgender. It's not two-spirit. I mean, they're adding all this crap, right? And, there's demisexual, which means that you have to be romantically involved with someone that you sleep with. Like, you're not attracted to people unless you actually like them, which is also code for normal. So again, they're just coming up with labels, right? So nebula sexual is another label. So let me read you part of this article. As awareness of neurodiversity grows, that's another word that I freaking hate, neurodiversity. Oh my gosh. Anyway, mental illness. More people are discovering that traditional orientation labels don't always capture their lived reality. For some, neurological differences, including ADHD, autism, or intrusive thought patterns, OCD, make it difficult to distinguish between types of attraction, sexual, aesthetic, or emotional. The term nebula sexual provides language for this experience, helping individuals feel less isolated and more understood, validating the idea that attraction doesn't look or feel the same for everyone, especially when filtered through a neurodivergent lens. This is not a sexuality. This is just a label that if you are autistic, and it impacts the way that you're attracted to people, I'm not sure how that happens, but if it impacts the way that you are attracted to people, you're just autistic. That's just a side effect of being autistic. You don't need another label. You're just autistic. That's fine. Or ADHD. I don't know how ADHD could impact your, well, I guess, these things can impact your romantic relationships, but not how you're attracted to people or what you're attracted to. So I don't know. This is all just very strange. I just think that you don't need an extra label. You're just autistic, or you just have ADHD, or you struggle with OCD or something. And dating with that might pose certain obstacles, but you don't need a label. They just collect these labels like freaking Pokemon, and then it makes them feel better about themselves. It's an identifier. It's a group that gives them this sense of belonging. And honestly, it's just an excuse for behaviors of theirs, because now you can date with ADHD and, however that manifests in a relationship, I don't know. But if a problem arises, you could say, well, I'm nebula sexual, babe. It's not my fault. It's my nebula sexuality.
It is never going to stop.
It's never going to end. It's never going to end. They're going to run out of colors for the freaking flag. All the iterations of the flag, they had to put Tylenol on there. Now they're going to have to make up colors. They're going to need new colors for it. Anyway, let's get into why female pop stars are lambasting mediocre men. This is a trend in pop culture that The Economist did an article on, and they used Sabrina Carpenter, Dua Lipa, Chappell Roan, some of these pop stars as examples. And I'm going to use Sabrina Carpenter first and foremost, because that is who I listen to. I also listen to Dua Lipa some, but less so, and I don't really listen to Chappell Roan. But Sabrina Carpenter, I like her music. And her music, it's very, her recent stuff is like more sexual, where she shows an appreciation for men, but she also hates certain things about men. It's more of like a love-hate relationship. Like, she finds them attractive, but she doesn't find qualities about them attractive. And so this is part of this article here by The Economist. They're saying this current wave of songs reflects a social shift where women in the rich world are enjoying economic power. They can be choosier about their partners, and many are willing to hold out for someone who will do the washing up and put the toilet seat down. According to Pew Research Center, 35% of American women between the ages of 25 and 54 were single in 2023, which is up from 29% in 1990. So a lot more women are single, and a lot of older women are single. So, 35% of women 25 to 54, you would think more would be married, but this is rising quite a bit. A lot of these single women, I'm part of this group as well, so I guess I'm part of the problem. So here's what it says. Across many measures, from education to politics, young men and women are drifting apart. Nearly 60% of American university graduates are women. Given that most women prefer not to date or marry down, for many, it can be, as Miss Carpenter says, slim pickings. Because one of Sabrina Carpenter's songs is called Slim Pickings, and I do like that song. But I want to pull up the lyrics here. But she says, guess I'll have to end this life alone. I'm not dramatic, but these are just the thoughts that pass right through me, all the douchebags in my phone. She's saying that they're kind of stupid. The good ones are all deceased or taken. So she's just going to keep bitching and moaning. And she made a funny joke about them not really being very smart and not knowing the difference between there and they are. So not being very grammatically intelligent, I guess you could say. So, here's the thing. They're touching on these studies that basically prove that, men and women are becoming more different and less people are dating. And among Gen Z, more women are liberal, more men are conservative. More women define success as having a career. More men define success as getting married and having a family. These used to be flipped. Like, everything is flipping now. Women are becoming more masculine and taking on more masculine roles, while testosterone levels are dropping among men. We are driving in separate directions. So it's no surprise that the marriage rate is declining, less people are having children, And I think it's basic biology that's keeping men and women attracted to each other despite all these differences. And I think it's societal norms that are still inspiring people to get married. I don't think that a majority of people get married in the biblical sense of marriage, despite Christianity being on the rise among younger groups. So maybe we'll see a more intentional kind of marriage among Gen Z in maybe a few years as they get into that age. But people are getting married just because it's the thing to do. People are getting married knowing that they don't want to have kids. I have a few friends in that situation. They're married. They know that they don't want to have kids. That's not what marriage was intended for. So the divide between men and women definitely has political factors, but I also think that it has economic factors as well that basically undo this traditional sense of marriage and partnership. Because most men these days in this economy, they can't provide for their family on one income alone, even if they wanted to. And that's been the case for years. And so as much as men want to blame feminism for ruining the traditional family structure, and there is truth to that, it doesn't really paint the full picture, because as the economy gets worse and it becomes more expensive to have the average 2.5 kids in a white picket fence, more women need to work. And thank goodness they have high paying jobs. Otherwise, people wouldn't be able to afford a wedding or to have kids in general. But I think deep down, men biologically want to provide and women biologically want to nurture and have children. And in this economic climate, not many men and women can afford to do that, even though it's what their strongly held beliefs tell them. So, women, now that they're making more money, they have to get rid of this expectation that men will provide and make more money than them. And that's hard. Like, I personally struggle with that. I would love to be a mom one day. And I think women are biologically wired to want to find someone who will make them feel emotionally, physically, and financially secure. And if I'm dating a man who makes less money than I do, which I've done before, I'm fine with that. But can I relax into my feminine energy? No. Women are now striving to be providers as well, because now men and women both have to provide. So therein lies the issue, right? Women are raising the bar for men, and instead of men rising to the occasion, women are having to lower their expectations and their standards. And I don't mean that to say that men are lazy or anything like that. Some are, I guess. But for the most part, I think this is a side effect of the economic state that we're in. On one hand, men will also argue that modern feminist women don't deserve to be provided for. I see this rhetoric and this narrative on social media all the time. They say that, they throw the equality argument back into the faces of women, saying, well, you asked for equality, so why would we split the bill? And why would I get the door for you? Like, we're equal, so you do it, right? So, that kind of begs the question, is chivalry dead if modern feminists get their way? And I think it does. Like, I think that modern feminists, they do kind of poo-poo men who want to be chivalrous. So I can understand why men react that way. But this brings me back to the politics of it all, because it seems like liberal women are more willing to accept the 50-50 split lifestyle. They're fine with splitting the bill. They're fine with splitting rent because they subscribe to these feminist tropes. They're okay not being provided for because they feel like, okay, I guess we did fight for this. So, this is the way it is, right? And then more conservative women will end up with more traditional men who want to provide that traditional lifestyle. So, we used to see in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, honestly, before like 2015, we used to see people date and marry outside of their political party because it didn't really matter that much. But now, political party essentially dictates how you will be treated in your relationship and what your marital structure will look like, what your nuclear family will look like, which is why I think it's become a prerequisite. Isn't that interesting? All of that, like all of those little details and how like culture and society has shifted over the years. It's I
think
crazy.
too, like people were very okay with a simpler life.
Totally.
And that does a lot.
I feel like people are now forced to have a more simple life because they can't afford what like my parents' generation could afford. Like, it used to be attainable to buy a house and pay for college yourself. Now it's like you're riddled with debt if you try to do that, right? So like, we're just living in a different world.
I mean, even people are coming out of college with a disadvantage that are, you're not only looking to get a job and get into the workforce and get a house,
Right.
but you also have $150,000 of debt.
I know. I'm 31 years old and I'm still paying off my college loans. That's
You'll get
crazy.
there.
10 years.
The little engine that could. You'll get there.
I'm trugging along. I'm like almost done. But yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, I'm grateful that I went to college and got a career because I mean, what would I be doing right now? I'd be living in a cardboard box. So I'm grateful for that, but it's expensive these days. All right, let's get into scrolling time. Bad dance moves. Speaking about this marriage, relationship talk, this brings me to my first scrolling time video. I don't know who this woman is. Everyone's got a podcast these days, myself included, but let's see. This is two women talking about how marriage is bad for women. Watch.
Marriage is an institution that is absolutely terrible for women. It is a garbage deal. A friend of mine said recently, if marriage benefited women, they would have taken it from us already. Right? Because they're taking away everything else that's good for women.
Yes.
But they're like, get married.
Yeah.
You should get married though.
Yeah.
Right? Married women do not live as long as single women. They do not earn as much money as single women. They are not as happy as single women. They are more likely to suffer from addiction than single women. They are more likely to commit suicide than single women. They are more likely to die of homicide than single women. They report themselves in every single way that you can measure sociological data for wellness as being less contented than single women. Interesting, given that it's the goal that you are taught is the thing that if you can achieve is going to make you happy. Conversely, married men, and this research has been done on men and women. No research has been done on women and women, men and men. I'll get to that in a little bit, but traditional cisgendered heterosexual marriage, married men, on the other hand, married to women, outperform single men by such a measure that it is perhaps the healthiest thing that a man can do is to get a woman to marry him. Married men live longer, they're healthier, they make more money, they advance more in their careers, they're more creative, they're less likely to commit suicide, they're less likely to die of homicide, they're less likely to die in car accidents in every single possible way. The best thing a man can do is to get married to a woman. The worst thing a woman can do, statistically speaking, is to get married to a man.
Well, I think men definitely benefit from being married and they do better in their careers because they have a wife and a family to provide for. That's saying that that's a man who is tasked with providing for a family.
Yeah, it's purpose.
It totally gives them purpose. But I wonder what they would say about men and women who are in 50-50 relationships. Like, is that the same? I think it's totally changes the dynamic.
Yeah, well, that's true. And do we just believe everything this lady says because she has those cool glasses on?
Well, here's the point. Good point, because I wanted to bring this up. This just goes to show that on the internet, you can make any crazy claim, right? I could say the sky is purple, and I could go on Google and find articles to back me up because the sky sometimes is purple, right? Even though everyone would answer that question, the sky is blue, right? But of course, sometimes the sky is purple, and I could find scientific articles to back me up if I say the sky is purple, or the sky is green, or the sky is red, or the sky is orange, right? So it doesn't really matter what you say on the internet. Like, you can always back yourself up. So it like everyone is right all the time. And so here's another poll that I found that undoes everything that woman said. There was a poll done this year saying that liberal women are the most unhappy and the most lonely out of every single group.
And that I believe.
And that I believe. All right, here is a woman, President Trump got back in office, big, bad, scary Trump, dictator Trump, whatever. So she left the United States like a lot of celebrities did, like Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres. And this woman, she moved, and now she's gonna crawl back. Watch.
If you're an American who is considering leaving the country to move somewhere else, make sure that the location you choose isn't based off of fear and lack mentality. I regret moving to Costa Rica. It's a beautiful country. I love the nature and wildlife, But moving to a third world country where I don't know the language, I don't have any connections, resources, or opportunities, that didn't make my life any easier by any means.
Shit.
I was just so scared of what's going on in America politically that I was in fight or flight. I was like, how am I gonna afford to survive? Like, how am I gonna find a place to live? Like, I was freaking out. And then I came here and made my life so much harder. And now I'm trying to go back, and I just like wish I didn't leave in the first place. You know, my travels and moves, I've really realized how privileged I've been. And there's a lot of things that like made me run away from LA and Orange County, some traumatic experiences and terrible people. But I left a lot of resources and great people behind, and I need to be in those environments again. I really miss luxury environments.
She misses the luxury of living in the greatest country on planet Earth. And I think it's funny that she says, you know, I moved to a third world country where I don't speak the language and I don't know anyone and I don't have any resources or anyone to help me. And it turns out that was hard.
You chose poorly.
It turns out that was harder than living in the greatest country of all time.
Or drink the clean water. You know, like,
no kidding.
Let's be thankful for clean tap water.
Right. And then she was saying, too, that she feels happier in the United States with all of these luxury amenities and things like that. But she was so afraid of, you know, the economic well-being of her, you know, by staying in the United States of America under Trump. Like, how am I going to afford to live here? She's probably worse off financially living in Costa Rica, moving there, and then moving back. That's very expensive to move.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You're talking about the financial responsibilities of getting from the U.S. there, passport, whatever it is, and then getting back. 100%.
So it's like, you didn't save any money. You would have been much better off staying in LA and working whatever job she works, whatever it is. I mean, there's no way that she made a sound financial decision by moving to a third world country. She totally fell for the liberal lie. Anyway, this is a smarter liberal that I have in the next video. So this is an atheist lesbian who went to a Turning Point USA event, and this is what her experience was. Watch.
Going to a TP USA event as a lesbian atheist. Yesterday, I had actually approached the TP USA recruitment table. I had had conversations with these people for 4 hours. I talked with the president. I'm not sure all the leadership terms, but some other higher up. I learned that TP USA, it is nonpartisan. It is centered around 3 things, which are the Constitution, free market, and limited government. I'm not gonna lie, they did not really differ in their religious beliefs. When I asked them if me being atheist was going to be a problem, they seemed actually rather excited to have someone with a differing religious belief. I had spoken with one woman. She offered to pay for my dinner. She offered to take me to her service. That I told her I was gay, and she was like, obviously I'm not going to lie to you, you know, like that's not, no, it's not biblical. And like, but despite saying all of this, she still stayed with me for hours just talking to me. I remain unconvinced. I'm still not a Christian after this amazing conversation. She gave me her number. She said, call me anytime. I don't care if it's 6 months from now. I met another young man. He said, here's my apartment number. You know, you come over at any time, 2 a.m., knock at my door. I'll always answer. And these people, you know, they might not support me being gay, but I have never seen someone not support me in such a friendly way. Not even people that support me being gay would support me enough to pay for my dinner and offer to speak with me for 3 hours and listen to me cry about the sorrows I have in my heart when I'm allegedly committing a sin that they don't tolerate.
This is Charlie Kirk's legacy. He has created a movement that is full of well-adjusted, well-meaning young adults who, yes, a lot of them are probably Christian, a lot of them are probably conservative or they hold conservative values, but they're not hateful like the media says that they are. They are good people who will reach out and have a conversation with anyone. They are willing to have a conversation with someone on the other side of the aisle. That is what Charlie wanted. And it makes me wonder what her experience would have been if she went to a protest with a MAGA hat on. Like a liberal protest, if she went to a No Kings protest this weekend with a MAGA hat on, would they be willing to have a conversation with her and be open and accepting like they claim to be? I would assume probably not. All right, this next video is police officers getting tased. This is something that young new police officers have to do. They get tased so that they know what it's like, so that they know that, you know, if they have to tase someone, this is what they're in for. So it, you know, helps them better judge the situation. Like, is it worth tasing this person? So I want you to watch this video, but definitely pay close attention to the hand placement of the gentleman, the second gentleman in this video.
Taser, taser, taser.
Oh, put me out, put me out! Oh my God! Stop, please! Stop! Oh, fuck!
Stay down.
Fuck!
Taser, taser,
Watch this.
taser.
Oh my nuts!
Taser, taser, taser.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Taser, taser, taser.
Good job, Roger!
Taser, taser, taser.
His knees buckled a little bit, but that one was strong. He didn't even
Taser,
grunt.
Taser, taser.
You're okay, buddy. You're okay. You're okay. Stay down. All right.
Whew, I would not want to do this. When I came in today, Andy asked me, do you want to get tased on the show? Should we do this? It would be funny. It'd be good for views.
Bunch of views.
Literally saying, do you want to get electrocuted on the show for views? There are things, you know, I'm not going to finish that sentence. But did you notice the second guy who grabbed the family jewels of the cops on either side of him?
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
And the guy on the left, the cop on the left said, ow, my nuts. I mean, he literally grabbed him. Anyway, this next one, you know, I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. So this is, and I posted this on my Instagram story. It was a TikTok compilation of kids getting scared by Halloween costumes and masks and things like that. And everyone was in my DMs like, this is so evil. I think it makes for tougher kids. I think we have a very soft generation, and I think getting a little scared by a Halloween decoration, it's good for your immune system, good for the nervous system. I think this is good. Sometimes a little shock is okay, and all these kids are going to be just fine, okay? But this is a little girl reacting to a Halloween costume. She didn't mince words. Watch. Here's the nun from the movie The Nun coming down the stairs.
Mommy, I'm scared. What the fuck?
And dad or whoever, Uncle Joe or whoever that was, you know, takes the mask off and all is well. But I think it's so funny that I love when kids curse. I think it's hilarious.
That's going to be in that kid's memory book forever.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. This is another kid. The next two videos that I have for you. What's our timing like now? What are we at? Okay, we got 10 minutes left. So what do you think I should do? I'll save these for next week. Let's get into the blind reactions. All right, so these I have not seen before.
Yeah, do you remember the show Price is Right?
Yes.
Okay, well, you know, you got Bob Barker, and it was a famous spin the wheel, and you make the bids. And so, like, here's AI doing, back to the AI theme this week, Bob Barker, and then these are the prizes that AI is giving these people.
All right, Sabrina, here we go. Take a listen.
Black bear?
Don't tell her yet. You just won a brand new dog. Go on, give him a hug.
A dog?
Yep, right. You wanted something you could really use, right?
Absolutely.
Well, feast your eyes on this. A brand
this is a fat
new
woman
digital scale.
winning a scale.
Climb on up there. Let's see what it says.
All right.
Take a look over here, Andre.
Oh, man.
Let's show him what he's won.
No way!
My neighbor.
A black guy winning a
My
teddy bear.
motherfucking neighbor.
He
Mila,
doesn't need that.
let's take a look at what you've just won.
The woman wins the cleaning supplies.
Worth of top of the line cleaning supplies. Go on, get your ass cleaning. Oh my goodness. Andre, take a look over there. That's right. It's not just any prize. Paul, take a look over there.
I missed that last
Oh
one.
my goodness. Calm down. Just breathe.
New lungs.
I can't believe it.
Here's a midget.
Ready, Vince?
I'm ready.
Let's see what you've won.
Whoa.
No way. I'll be damned. That's perfect.
What is that, a piggyback ride?
Climb on up, my friend. All right, Juan, take a look over there. It's a brand new lawnmower.
Lawnmower?
What are the odds? That's perfect. And look what we got for you, Scott. Maybe now your off-rhythm ass won't look so bad at the club. Travis, you came to win, and here's what we've got for you. Hip-hop dance lesson. Oh, wait. Maybe now your off-rhythm
Rhythm
ass
for
won't
white
look
people.
so bad at the club.
I'll take all the help I can get, Bob.
I love it. That's a good one.
Bob Barker wasn't holding back.
I love how Bob Barker says to the woman, "You wanted a pet dog. Go pet it." It's a blind woman. She's literally throwing her to the
It's a grizzly bear.
bears. All right, let's hit the next one.
Here's the second one. You ready?
Yep. Here's two dogs greeting a skeleton on a porch. Oh! I jumped with the dogs. The skeleton
That
jumped out of
retriever
them.
got some.
They
got some airtime.
Yeah, they did. The skeleton moves. I think it's like a German Shepherd or on the left, and he did like an aerial. He did like a little flip. He was fancy with it. I have a video that I'll play next week of a dog getting scared by something, and it's also very funny and Halloween related. So I'll just tease that. Are there one more?
We got one more.
One
And
more?
despite this new warning system, I still know some people that would back into some things. They just can't help it.
Uh-oh. It's like a backup camera, a little backup alert. But, if your backup alert goes out, you can always call your friend with a trumpet.
Yeah, just have him chill back there and let everybody know.
Just have him sit in the
And I
trunk.
still know some drivers that would hit things.
Yeah. Yeah. AI is not going to, cancel every job. There's still a need for us humans.
Yeah,
for
super
sure.
analog.
All right. I have some questions that were submitted to me on Instagram, so I will get through as many as I can. How much time do we have left, Andy? 5 minutes. All right. Here we go. Someone asked me my favorite ice cream. I love chocolate, so I will have to go chocolate mousse tracks. I'm not so sure what's in chocolate mousse tracks. I think it's
Isn't it fudge and caramel?
Fudge and something. Chocolate mousse tracks ingredients. Fudge swirl and mini peanut butter cups. That's the part that I really like because chocolate and peanut butter, iconic duo. Name a more iconic duo. I'll wait. Chocolate and peanut butter. I love it. I love Reese's. So someone asked me my thoughts on Nick Fuentes and him being unbanned on Spotify. I think wonderful. I'm obviously all for free speech. He's here on Rumble. I don't watch his show per se. I don't really have enough time to watch all of the shows that I am interested in watching, especially when it comes to politics and news, because I only have enough hours in the day to put my show together. And then when I go home, I'm scrolling to find more content for the next show. So I try to catch up here and there, but I don't do the best job. But I did tune into his show after Charlie Kirk died, because I know they had a little bit of beef, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk, and he was very well-spoken, very respectable. And I see clips of him, and I think he's funny. So I don't believe in anyone being banned or deplatformed or debanked or anything. So, I'm a free speech absolutist. Someone said your guilty pleasure food, guilty pleasure drink, guilty pleasure song. Guilty pleasure food is macaroni and cheese. It's my favorite. I love it. If it's on the menu, I don't always treat myself to mac and cheese because, if I ate as much mac and cheese as I would want to eat, I wouldn't look so great. So I try to keep that at a minimum. But I also love Cheez-Its and Oreos. Those are my guilty pleasure snacks. I always get Cheez-Its at the airport. I get a bag of Cheez-Its. They always have huge bags of Cheez-Its. So that is my airport snack, my airport guilty pleasure. Love Oreos. Guilty pleasure drink I don't have. I don't have a guilty pleasure drink. During the week, I only drink coffee and water. And on the weekends, I add in a little alcohol. But I wouldn't necessarily call that a guilty pleasure. It's just like, I don't know. Anyway, guilty pleasure song. I don't think I have a guilty pleasure song, but songs that they give me a nostalgic vibe. Like if they come on, I'm like, oh, that's a good song. You know, Hannah Montana, High School Musical, songs from my childhood. That's a guilty pleasure. It's embarrassing. If someone saw that on my Spotify, I wouldn't be super proud of it, but you know, it is what it is. Someone asked me my dream vacation. I would love to go to Hawaii. I would love to go to Greece. There's a ton of places. I really like going to tropical locations. So if it's warm, if I can sit on the beach, if I can hike or something, sit by the pool, like that's my dream vacation. So, you know, anywhere really. I got to explore more of Europe. I've only been to England and Italy. So I need to go back. I've got a lot of the world to
You go back and
explore.
take the train around. That seems fun.
Yeah. Someone asked me, is hot dog a sandwich? Is a hot dog a sandwich? What do you think?
It's a hot dog.
Totally agree. It's
I mean, a sandwich is...
Hot dogs and hamburgers are in a class of its own. That's why when you go to a restaurant, they'll have handhelds as the qualifier for if there's a burger and then sandwiches also on the menu, it's handhelds. Because they're different. They're in a league of their own.
Question could be, is a hot dog a sub?
No. I think a sub requires more than one ingredient in the middle. But I think the definition of a sandwich is something in between two pieces of bread, which I think a burger would fall into, but a hot dog is just like a slit. It's not even really two pieces. It's just one piece that has a hole in it. So, I don't know. I don't, to answer your question, I don't think a hot dog is a sandwich. Someone said, do you believe in Bigfoot? I don't know. I mean, I could believe in anything, right? So it's nice to believe. There's no evidence that he doesn't exist, right?
No, not particularly. But there's a lot of, you know, folklore and grainy pieces of footage that clearly indicate that he exists.
But just because something's not on camera doesn't mean that it's not real. So sure, I believe in Bigfoot. Someone asked me, would you visit Israel? Yeah, I would visit Israel. I've always wanted to go, you know, before the war. I probably wouldn't go now. I was invited to go with a group for like Christian influencers, and I ended up turning it down. And I'm glad that I did, because if I ever want to go to Israel, I will be paying for it myself. I'll just say that. Not going to be bought and paid for by anyone. Also, someone asked me, how many alcoholic drinks would you need to lose to AOC in an IQ test?
I appreciate the question because it's establishing you as way more intellectual than AOC.
Right. How
Empty
many
stomach.
Drinks? You know, I don't think that drinking makes you less intelligent. All of my intelligence would still be in my brain. But could I perform?
But the choice to make poor decisions.
Right. But could I perform? But this isn't based on decision making. This is intelligence.
Let's answer it by saying, like, what would 2 glasses of wine do it?
No. It's got to be more than 2 glasses of wine.
3 glasses of wine.
Maybe 6.
So a bottle of wine.
I've never drank 6 glasses of wine.
An oak
before.
barrel of brandy.
Yeah, it would have to be a lot. So I don't really know, and I'm not going to put it to the test because that would be dangerous. Someone said, this actually, this wasn't submitted, but I found this on TikTok. And this is a girl, and she said, this is a would you rather question. What would you rather have for free for the rest of your life? First option is private transportation at your disposal. So that's including a driver, a train to yourself, a private plane at your disposal, anytime, anywhere you want to go for free. That's the first option. Second option is a private chef and free food for the rest of your life, that's like probably the smarter decision. The third option is free beauty treatments for the rest of your life. And while the food is probably the smarter option, I think beauty treatments, having free beauty treatments would be more beneficial in the long term, because I could spend more money on beauty treatments than I could on food.
I'd be traveling everywhere free.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because you're not going to be on the beauty treatment train. But for me, if I could get my hair extensions and hair, I'd be bleach blonde if I had unlimited money for beauty treatments. I could keep up with that. Being blonde is very expensive. I used to be blonde. It's very expensive. Hair extensions, very expensive. I get facials. They're very expensive. Massages, very expensive. These are things that I would indulge in much more frequently, and I think I would feel much better if I had all of these things. So anyway, last question. Someone said, would you rather stay in a spaceship for a year or a submarine for a year? And these are both my worst freaking nightmare. I just have to say. I think space. Something about being underwater for a year is scary.
Well, they need to specify, like submarine, are we like 30 feet underwater? I
Good
mean,
point.
Space is space.
Right.
Like you're up in geosync orbit. That's pretty
Right.
defined space. Like
so then
you could
maybe
be
a submarine would be closer. Like if something bad happened, you could get to safety. Maybe easier to be rescued.
I'm not down there at the Titan submersible.
Well, think about the astronauts who were in space for months and months on end, right? It's hard to get a rescue team up there. Harder.
I feel like too your physiology starts changing in space for a year.
Shoot, I changed my mind. Maybe.
I'm gonna go 20 feet under the lake at Percy Priest in Nashville, and I can just swim up out of the
If
hatch.
anything bad happens. I'm with you. All right. Thank you for watching tonight's episode of Nightly Scroll. Of course, just a quick reminder to subscribe everywhere. Subscribe on Rumble, of course, or follow us on Rumble if you're watching on another platform. Make sure that you come over and you scroll with all of my homies in the chat. Of course, you can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow me on social media at Hayley Caronia on Instagram, TikTok, Truth Social, and whatever else I didn't say, X. I will see you right back here on Monday.